Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Now, apologies for not having as many videos last week. I was a little bit under the weather. My voice wasn't working the way I wanted to. I just didn't have the energy. So hopefully I'll be back on schedule, be getting out 6 videos a week this week. But I'm going to start off today with a retro review for a game that I have played and started several times, but I've never finished until just now. And that is going to be Little Nemo for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, this was my older brother's first video game ever. Got it on the Nintendo, very first game he ever played. And this game is ridiculously weird and ridiculously hard. This is definitely a Nintendo era game. Obviously, a lot of the games on the Nintendo were exceptionally difficult. This one takes the cake in a lot of ways. This one is so precise. There are so many janky hitboxes. There's so much awfully programmed AI. There's so much going against you in this game that beating this game without save states is a monumental effort. I did not do that. I beat it with save states, just to be clear here, to make sure that I'm putting it out in the open here. But I think I would like to try and do it without save states and record myself doing that. If that's something you're interested in, watching me complete some old, really difficult games just straight up the way that they were intended, let me know in the comments section down below. I've been thinking about trying to put that on the channel, and if you would like that, I think that I would like to try that out. But let's get into the review here. So Little Nemo, you play as a little kid who goes to bed and wakes up in this dream world, this dreamland that he can explore. There are lots of enemies around, but there are also some helpful critters that you can throw candy at. And if you throw 3 of them at the animal that you that are able to eat them, they fall asleep. You jump on them and you get to either ride on top of them or become like a costumed version of them. You have like a frog suit that lets you jump super high, but your mobility horizontally is pretty limited, but the jump height is very substantial. You have a little lizard that will give you a lot of quick mobility on the ground, but not very much of height when you jump, but it'll also let you crawl up walls. It will also let you get through small gaps. It somehow makes you smaller. You have a gorilla that gives you a big punch, allows you to actually attack your enemies, which is something that a lot of the characters don't let you do. You don't have a lot of options to attack in this game until late game, but the gorilla lets you punch your enemies and climb up walls as well. You also have a rat that has like a hammer. You get like a hammer on the top of it, and it's kind of like the lizard. You can go on walls. You can actually have a hitbox. It's not very big, but you have one, so you can mess around with that. And there also is, I'm trying to remember, I think you can do like a hermit crab where you can bury under the ground in the sand and the water levels. I don't know if there's any other ones. If I've forgotten any, I'll probably try and get like a picture up on the screen right now as I'm doing my research. But those are some of the examples of the animals that you can befriend in this game. Each level, I think there's 7 or 8-ish levels in the main story before you get to like this nightmare land, and then you have several levels of that. But the first few levels are just so ridiculously challenging that I gave up on this game so many times, time and time again. The only reason I heard about this game, it's such an obscure title, is because of my older brother. I'd heard of that. He had showed me his copy. He'd played the game for me. This game is just so weird and so obscure. I just knew I had to beat it and talk about it on the channel here. Each level has a certain amount of keys that you need to get to open up the door at the end of the level. This can range from something like 5 to 7, I think, maybe 8 keys at the end of one of the levels, but you have to get a certain amount of keys. Typically, there are more keys than there are locks in the level at the very end of the level here, but sometimes it is just you have to get every single key, and it necessitates exploration. This game will punish you for exploring, though, because the enemies spawn from random spots, and the game can only handle so many enemies on screen at once, so there are ways to exploit this to kind of like off-screen or get enough enemies on screen and then try and move on to the next area where an enemy would be, but since they've already loaded in so many enemies over here, you can like nullify that. It's really difficult, but doing that can save you some real headache because they can just spawn on top of you. Like if I'm climbing up a tree and there are enemies that usually come down from the tree, if I even go off screen a little bit and then come back, or even just a little bit, not even off screen it, but if I like have them just above where I normally would see them, they might spawn in right on top of you. You have other enemies like this little like a dandelion puff, like one of the seeds that kind of floats down. It's got a creepy face on it, and it will track your movement, and then it will start going straight down. Well, they can also spawn really close to you if you get high enough up, and it's really, really frustrating because the hitboxes are pretty darn huge in this game. You don't have a lot of room for error. And again, if you have one of the animal companions that don't allow you to do an attack, you're kind of defenseless. You just have to avoid them, and that's what most of this game is. Now, you can throw candy at these enemies to stun them for a time, but not every enemy can be stunned, and some of these, again, are like above you, and they come in at inopportune times. It's just exceptionally difficult. You have 3 health points from as Nemo. You can get more with different animal companions. Some of them give you up to like 6, I believe, on the HP scale, but recovering health is exceptionally hard. You can find them with like health kits that restore your health completely, or other things that restore just a little bit at a time. But conserving health is so crucial in this game. And again, the enemy AI, the way that they're trained to track you, is just really hard to avoid. But once you get some patterns down, once you figure out a few things, it is more manageable. But the later levels get so ridiculously hard and precise and spam you with enemies that it's nearly impossible, again, without save states to beat this game. I did so many save states. In fact, the later levels, I was saving every few steps, every jump, just because it was that hard to manage if you messed up. Now, if you hit spikes in any of the levels, they automatically kill you. It's an insta-kill whether you're on an animal or not. You can always jump off of these animals by pressing the select button. It'll take you out of it. Sometimes you need to utilize that. You'll need to use one animal until you get to another one and then utilize that. Sometimes you have to get rid of the suit entirely so you can jump higher if you're using like the lizard to get through a tight crack, but he can't jump up to a next platform. There's lots of nuance in this game, and I think it's actually pretty well designed for the most part in terms of the platforming. I think there's a nice, healthy amount of platforming in this game. It's just the enemy AI. It's just like a lot of NES games where they just give you so much to avoid, and it's almost impossible half the time. You can find 1-ups throughout the worlds to give you some extra hits. Again, I was using save states, so I didn't really need to worry about that, but I can tell that you will probably need almost every single one that you find in this game if you want to even get close to succeeding. Once you get to the latter half of the game, this is spoilers in case you are worried about that for a game that came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Once you get to the latter end of the game, you find out that you are in this dreamland, and this princess wants you to go and fight this nightmare king and destroy him so that the dreamland can go back to normal, so that everything can be happy again. And so she gives you a scepter, a little like magic wand type thing that you can use to hit people, or you can charge it up and shoot a magic beam that shoots upward diagonally away from you. Didn't realize you could do the second half of that. So at one point you get to a boss fight in the first area of the Nightmare Land, and it's this penguin that keeps coming down. He drops like little ones and everything. It's so hard. I kept trying to hit him over and over. I jump and hit him with the scepter, and it was like 10, 12, 14 reps of him going back and forth and dodging for my life. And I'm like, I'm not killing him. What is going on? And finally, I accidentally held down the button, found out you can shoot this ball, and killed him in just a few hits. It was still difficult, but found out that that's the way you need to do it. And so utilizing that staff at the later half of the game is very, very useful, but you'll mostly need to use the animal companions even after you get that scepter to get through each of the levels before you get to the boss fight. And some of those latter levels are just crazy. There's one where you have to go back and forth between animals, back and forth, and dodge every single enemy in the game pretty much. They're being spammed from the worst possible points while you're trying to platform through like really tight spaces. So getting like the little pollen, like little seeds that fly down on you, you have to make sure you bait them out the right direction. It's just awful. But getting to the final boss and finally beating it was such a satisfactory thing for me. I had such a good time finally closing the door on this game. But again, if you would like to see me play through this, I might do like live playthroughs or film myself playing the game without any save states and see if I can actually beat this game. If you're interested in that, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know if you've heard about this game either. I know this is a pretty obscure pick. I would love to know if you have heard of it or if you have played it. I realized once I finished the video that I never gave this one a ranking. I'm going to give this one a white gold rank, or a silver and gold in between. I think this one has some really solid platforming. It's very nostalgic for me because my older brother loves the game so much and had that game, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's worth playing. I think because of my nostalgia, I'm giving it a little bit of a tweak up. I think it is too brutally difficult at some points. Enemy AI is just too stupid. But overall, I think this game is pretty darn good. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.